All right, welcome back to another episode of What Would Wakeman Do? And in this episode, I'm going to highlight a comment from a while ago where somebody asked me about high boat hours. So let's get into it. All right, so back here in the office, and we're gonna take a look at the comment from Fraydale, and this is from about 7 months ago. It says, guy by me is selling a 2014 Moomba Mondo with 1,700 hours on it. Curious on thoughts with hours this high. Claims to have never been in saltwater. The interior is worse than my 2006 Supra, but my Supra is pretty spotless for a 17-year-old boat. Third owner. Current owner seems to have taken care of it well. Not sure about history though. Thoughts? I'll start out by looking at the boat in general, just to give my thoughts on whether or not I would buy the boat at all, even if it had 100 hours on it. So, here's what the boat looks like. Here's what the interior looks like here. That comes up. So the thing about this boat is it is a small boat, but I actually know somebody who has, it might even be the same model, but if not very close to it. And they've been surfing behind this boat for a long time. I mean, we're 2023 here. I think he might even still have it. Let's look at the specs, and apologize for these advertisements in between, but you can see that it's a 20 foot 6 inch, so 20 and a half feet boat. That's definitely going to be the smallest class of a wake boat, is 20 foot boats. I'm not sure if there's a 20 foot with no inches boat out there, but anyways, it's just in that class. You can see that the load capacity is 2,000 pounds. That's actually pretty good for this for this size of a boat. 13 people, that's about to be expected. You get into a 21 foot, you start getting to 14 or 15 people. So doesn't carry much fuel, but you know, I think relative to its size, it's fine. Dry weight, this is actually a pretty good dry weight for that size of a boat. And standard ballast is 1,300 pounds. Not much, but it is a small boat. On first glance at this boat, I would say, oh man, I'm not sure if this is gonna be able to put out much of a wave. But I think you have to take into consideration, you know, what you're comparing it against. So if you're looking at 20 foot boats because that's what fits in your garage, or maybe it's just what you could afford, or whatever it is. Maybe you're looking at a 20 foot boat because you're looking at brand new boats, and it's what you can afford. And you just want to be in warranty or something like that. That's why you're looking at brand new boats. In this case, we're looking at a used boat. So I'm going to assume maybe it's based on budget, and this just fits the person's budget. Knowing what I know about the Moomba Mondo, I would say if you're looking at a 20 foot boat for wake surfing, this is a pretty good one from what I've heard. It does a pretty good job putting out a wave for a smaller boat. So now I'll talk more about my thoughts of hours on a boat. In fact, I made a video where I talked about, you know, hours on a boat versus miles on a car. So I'll put a link to that video right above me here. So that'll give you a much more detail and kind of a breakdown on what I think about boat hours and how much is too many. But in general, you know, high hours doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Higher hours really, on one hand, it tells you that the boat has run solid for a long time. Whereas if it was an older boat that had a low amount of hours on it, like 50 hours, I would question whether or not that boat has just not been able to run for a while for one reason or another. So that's kind of the good part about high hours. But in general, you know, high hours is similar to high miles on a car. You know, it means that there's been more wear and tear. And I would say, you know, the higher the hours, I would look, if I was looking at boats that had higher hours on them, I would be looking for signs that that boat was meticulously taken care of. So things like it's been kept indoors, like in a garage. You know, when you look in the engine bay, how does it look? Is there rust everywhere? And you know, how does it sound when it runs? You know, go out and take a test drive. How does it feel? Things like that. I personally would probably not want to do anything over 1,000 hours because I feel like even if it's taken care of well, you're getting into the zone where you're probably going to be replacing parts on a regular basis. So I'd say if you're gonna buy a boat with over 1,000 hours on it, you probably should either be a mechanic, so you're very comfortable working on automobiles or just engines in general, and maybe even boats specifically, or you're okay with the trade-off of having it in the shop every once in a while getting worked on, as opposed to paying the extra money to not be in the shop, for a newer boat, one that's under warranty or what have you. So based on what the comment said, he said that it looked, the interior looked worse than his '06 Supra. Chances are it either wasn't garage kept or the previous owners had just not taken care of it well. So I would say a 2014 Moomba with 1,700 hours on it, where the interior looks worse than an '06 Supra, chances are that's probably not a good buy, in my opinion. So what would WakeMan do in this specific scenario? I would not buy that boat. Now let's say this boat has 800 hours on it, and you can tell that the gel coat still looks pretty much brand new. You can tell the interior, in the interior there's no cracks, no seams ripping, things like that. In general, it's in really good shape. Also, you can tell that the interior doesn't look like it's been redone, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but if it had been redone, that means that it probably had some good wear and tear on it. Things like that. If there's no rust, if it's pretty rust free in the engine bay, which means they kept it mostly dry when they weren't using it. Little things like that. Basically trying to take everything you can into consideration, and you determine that it's been very well kept, then I would say an 800-hour boat wouldn't be a big deal. I wouldn't necessarily shy away from an 800-hour boat. So anyways, that's what WakeMan would do in this scenario. So don't forget to provide me more scenarios in the comments down below. All right, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any thoughts on this video or ideas for future videos, please leave those in the comments below. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and click on that notifications bell so you can be notified of my future videos. I'll see you next week.